Hello and welcome back to another episode of Watch Thomas Flounder while he tries to make video games. Today is a very exciting day because after about a month or so of prototyping different projects, I finally have one game that I am excited to move forward with. And that's thanks to you. As of the time of this recording, about 200 of you have voted in a poll for which game you want to see me develop into a fully fledged game. So thank you for that. Yes, I know my office is still a mess. Someday I will clean it, but not today. I'm not going to waste any time. Let's jump into the poll results. So the poll results right now, there are 197 responses. About 9% of the votes went to the first-person 3D platformer. About 20% went to the naval chess deck builder. And the overwhelming majority, with 70%, is the minimalist War Island strategy tactics game. And this poll just really solidifies what I already knew just from releasing videos for each of these prototypes and seeing how people have reacted to them. Just gauging interest from YouTube comments and Discord discussions and playtests of the demo, the Island Tactics game is a clear standout. Now in my previous video, I did some market research for each of the genres that each of these prototypes inhabit, and a few of you pointed out some flaws for how I was conducting the research for this kind of data set, and I really appreciate that. I feel like I'm much more well equipped to do these comparisons moving forward next time. But hey, I'm a man of the people and I'm really excited to be moving forward with the Island Tactics game. That being said, let's take a look at some of the improvements that I've made since initially releasing that first demo of the game. Lots of you actually played the demo and gave me some really good feedback, and a few of you actually recorded yourselves playtesting the demo, and I was able to watch that back in real time, and that was super helpful.
I'm not sure this button down here does. Did I miss something in the tutorial? I think I lost. Why do I care about expanding my land? Oh, you can you can attack your own building. As it is right now, not all that fun. I don't find this current gameplay loop fun.
Many of you found out that it was actually possible for you to attack your own base, which is hilarious. And one of the most game-breaking bugs from that initial demo was how enemy warriors rush your base. Because you see they're set on a timer, and that timer is supposed to start when you click the fight button, so that you have a random chance of people rushing your base at a semi-inconsistent cadence. The problem with the demo that I sent out to everybody is that that timer started once the level loaded in completely. The outcome of this is that the longer that you waited to press the fight button, the more of your enemies would be triggered to come rush your base all at once. Whoops. And that broke the game in a really significant way. So I fixed that, and I also fixed the ability to move your troops onto bridges, because previously when you would click on a bridge, it would just move them across the bridge, but now you can station them at specific points along a bridge. Before this, the actual bridge platforms weren't selectable for where you can navigate your troops. It would just move your troops over the bridge entirely. And the next big thing that I implemented was island positioning. Because as it was before, you could have enemy islands spawn in around your island in each of the cardinal directions. You know, north, south, east, and west. Did I do that right? North, south, east, and west. I think this would be west for you guys. Directions on cameras are not easy, but I wanted to spawn the islands diagonally as well. So I broke the map into quadrants, or 9 of them. It's a 3x3 grid. But this posed a problem for me because previously the bridges that were connecting the islands were completely straight. And now I had to figure out some logic for how to connect islands via bridges that had turns in them. You see, the way that I connect bridges in my game is that you select a start point and an end point, and then I build subsequent planks in the bridge that connects the two. And the game logic is looking for these little structures that I call bridge ports, and they just look like these two little poles, and these are the start and end points that the game looks for to connect the islands with a bridge. But there's no logic for making turns in these bridges. So they either have to be aligned or they look super janky like this. So put my old thinking cap on and figured out how to decide how many turns a bridge should have. Guess we're doing accents now. It's probably the last time I'll do that. So I decided that if there's an enemy island that's at a diagonal to the player island, it should be connected with 2 different bridges. So if there's an island in the northeast of the player island, we want to connect it with the north bridge and the east bridge. So I implemented some logic that will determine if a vertically aligned bridge port is trying to connect to a horizontally aligned bridge port, and how many turns it should have to connect to the two. And basically, under all circumstances that the game has right now, it'll either have 0 turns, 1, 2, or 3 turns. Then I use that number to generate bridge segments. And that seemed easy enough to do in theory, but as I was implementing it, I kept having these off by 1 errors, and so everything was really close for a long time and I couldn't really nail it down. But eventually things clicked and it looks pretty good. And then finally, the last thing that I had to do was check for duplicate bridge planks. So if there are 2 bridges that overlap and intersect and they have an overlapping amount of bridge planks, then I only want to spawn those in a position once. Okay, so that was bridge connections. Good stuff, good stuff. I've also been experimenting with different island sizes as well, because in that initial demo that I set up, the islands were all very small. And I think naturally as the game progresses, the islands will continue to expand and grow. But as I was doing some playtesting, I noticed that the game gets significantly more challenging the bigger the islands are and the more spaced out they are. Because you have to split up your troops, and it takes longer for units to go from here all the way over here in order to respond to different situations. Let's see. Oh, another thing that I fixed is how I save islands. So previously, my save system for each island would save the exact coordinates in the world that everything occupies. So if I load in my level generator and I build an island way off to the left, it will save those coordinates way off to the left. And then when I spawn it in, the center of the object will still be here, but the island will be way out here. Did I do that right? Is that left for you guys? That's left for me. Man, maybe I'll flip the video. Maybe I'll start doing that. That's not a bad idea. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so a nice quality of life feature that I added was the ability for the save system to zero out where the island actually is. So what it does is if I build the island way out here, I take the leftmost point and the rightmost point and the top and the bottommost point, and then I find the average, which gets me the center of the landmass, and I basically offset everything so that when I spawn it in, it will be centered for wherever I spawn it in. And that's super significant, especially for when I'm developing these land chunks that you can use to upgrade your islands, because it's hard for me when I am saving these to figure out exactly where the origin of the level editor is. But now that it just takes care of itself mathematically, I can just build those little chunks wherever, save it, and then spit it into the island upgrade system. So high five to me for making my own life easier. Okay, now on to the important stuff, the actual design of the game. Because I got a lot of feedback on how the game plays and if it's fun or not, and how the game loop operates, and I got a lot of negative feedback about the reward system in the game. So the question that I'm facing right now is, how can I make progression feel more satisfying? And in my opinion, the fun happens when the player is faced with choices, like the ability to choose if you want to upgrade your army with a new swordsman versus a new archer. So one thing that I knew I had to add eventually, but I decided to start implementing now, is an in-game shop. Having a basic economy in the game will allow players to choose what they want to upgrade and when. So I don't have the economy implemented in the game yet, but I am building out a lot of the infrastructure for an in-game shop system. And besides buying a swordsman and an archer, I've added a third option right now for being able to upgrade your base. And I'll continue to expand what upgrading your base actually means, but right now it gives your base more health and it will expand the buildable grid area around your island. But as I was building out yet again another pop-up in my game, I decided that the UI in the game as it presents itself right now is sorely lacking. The current pop-ups in the game don't capture the UI that I want to go for at all. So I went on a little distraction journey to research some UI in games that I felt like I could implement in my game, and bookmarking the ones that I felt like captured a piece of what I want my own in-game UI to look like. So here's some examples of UI elements that I like, and I'll be coming back to this at some point, but here I am once again being torn between trying to implement better gameplay and trying to make my game look good. This stuff is hard. Anyway, I also fixed an enormous amount of bugs, and I also started doing this new thing where each new development session, when I sit down at my desk, I play through the game before I do anything else, because I always want to have a pulse on how the game feels to play. In the past, when I developed these games, I wouldn't do very much playtesting. I would only play the game in order to make sure that something technical was working properly. But right now, I'm really focused on making a product that is fun to play. And so that means I want to be playing it myself constantly and trying to hone in on what makes the game fun and try to eradicate the friction points and the things about the project that aren't really fun. And another big aspect of trying to make this game fun is getting it into the hands of playtesters, which means you. So my plan moving forward is to put this game on Steam as a playable demo that you can all play as I continue developing it in real time. I want to update these builds on a very consistent basis, like probably weekly or bi-weekly. Now, the only problem with putting this demo on Steam is that in order to make a Steam page, I need a name for the game. So if you can think of any good names, I'm all ears. I have a big list that I've come up with, but I don't really like any of them, so if you have any good suggestions, let me know. Other than that, be on the lookout for a Steam demo really soon. As always, please feel free to make comments about how I can make improvements to the game. I have a big list of features and ideas that I want to implement, but we'll see how I prioritize those. And that's it. I'll see you real soon in the next one.